Mayor Durkan, resign! Resign! Resign!
I'm going to invite a sister friend of mine, an elder in training, being that this is somebody else's land that we're all standing on. I'm actually going to invite a sister friend of mine who's native to bless it before we even do anything. So sisters, Roxanne, if y'all can give a big round.
Nick Valtre. I'm sorry. This is a little bit overwhelming. Yeah, thank you. I'm just going to open up with a song right now, you guys. I want to say that we are standing on Duwamish, Suquamish, Tulalip, Muckleshoot, Coast Salish territory. Just a reminder that as we do this work, as we come into these spaces, to remember that every tree here, every blade of grass, every building, everything that was built here was built over the bones and the blood of the ancestors of the Coast Salish people, and that they are still here. And I think it's important for us to, and I'm going to keep saying this as kind of I'm going to kind of get after all the organizers right now. I want to say that we got to do better in making sure that Coast Salish people are present and that they're asked and advanced in a good way to come here and bless these lands and bless these events, and to acknowledge and to be acknowledged that that's what we need to do. I am a guest here. I'm a guest here, so my hands are up to the Coast Salish people and to their ancestors. And also, I really need to say that. And so I don't pray in the way that I used to pray. Since my spirit's been woken, I have a hard time praying verbally, so I'm gonna just sing one song. And it's gonna be the one song that I feel that I can sing, that I have permission to sing. And this song is a call to action. It's the Women's Warrior Song, the Women's Honor Song. And this song is a call to action. It's a call to do something, get up and do something. It's a call to remember those that are missing and those that have been murdered in Indian country. And I'm gonna extend that because as we all stand here today, I wanna say that, you know, our black relatives, our black brothers and sisters have lost their people, and their people are going missing, and their people are being murdered at extremely high rates as well. So my prayers go out to them as I sing this song. They go out to our brown relatives that are undergoing a genocide right now on the borders, the separation of their families, their children being taken, the genocide that continues to happen in this government, in this United States, which is originally Turtle Island. And this is a song where everybody rises. This is an honor song. Please, can you all rise? Thank you. everybody to please put your fists in the air. And as we go out in this last round, to remember all those that are not here no more, those that don't have a voice, the families that are carrying this, pray for them, and a call to action and a call to change and a call for justice.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank y'all for bearing witness to it. It's important that we come as community. And it's important that we understand what community looks like. So having said that, now I'm going to talk as D-Crim. I'm just going to really talk about the 3 demands that we have. It's not new. We've been saying it at every corner. What's the first one? Say that loud and clear.
Defund SPD.
Say that.
Defund SPD by at least 50%.
By at least 50%. That's right. See, my community understood it. What's the second demand? What are we going to do with the money? Say that again, community. Say that loud and clear. Thank you. And what's our third demand? Say that loud and clear.
Release all protesters with no charges.
Drop all the charges of our people and release them immediately. Thank you, people. Love y'all.
The Seattle police has used chemical weapons against its own people. That ain't right. The Seattle police has killed black people just like the police have done for centuries since they were slave catchers.
They're still slave catchers.
They're still slave catchers, that's right.
They're just catching people who ain't slaves yet.
The police aren't on our side. They're not workers, and they're not for the people. We want to defund the Seattle police by at least 50%.
Hello, my name is Savannah Demissie. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a non-binary femme. I use the term femme because it's the way I'm perceived by other people, not necessarily how I perceive myself. I want to focus mostly on Pride, as we are in Pride Month right now. Last year at Pride, I saw a black man being arrested in the middle of the event. Not a single non-black person felt the need to stop and check why and what was going on. We treat Pride like it's a block party when Pride has always been a march, a riot, a revolution. This year is the closest we've ever been to continuing the legacy and work that Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera, 2 black and Latinx trans women, led and fought for the freedom of all queer and trans people. Now, when we go to Pride, we have cops policing the very event that was combating them. We include them in our marches, our spaces, the very spaces created by the people they murder. So to those of you mourning your yearly Pride event, realize that this is what our predecessors would want to see the most. The illusion that Pride is a party is the same illusion that MLK Day means freedom and justice for all. When crimes are committed against trans and queer black people, they often fear their own communities. When we aren't holding our own brothers accountable, we lose beautiful people like Alua Toyin. If we aren't showing up for our dark-skinned, trans, queer, intersex, non-binary, and disabled siblings, you aren't really here for Black lives. In relationship to our fifth demand, free all protesters, don't forget when incarcerated Black trans folk are separated into cells by their assigned gender at birth. They're sexualized and brought down to their genitalia. The sexual and physical violence they face in prison cells by inmates and those in charge, we must protect our Black trans sisters. In relationship to our third demand, defund the SPD by 50% and reinvest in community. Lack of employment and housing protections and opportunities contribute to the financial insecurities that Black, Indigenous, and POC trans women face. Black trans women face 34% of housing insecurity compared to the 9% of non-Black trans women. Reinvesting our money into community can save lives. We also need to be intentional with our language, saying the revolution is on the front lines. Don't forget about those who are physically unable to show up. Their work is just as important. As many speakers before me have said, we are not the owners of this land. I just want to remind all of you of some chants that we should not be using. We should not be using the chant, whose land, our land. If you are not Black, do not use the chant, my skin is not a weapon, hands up, don't shoot, and I can't breathe. By using these phrases as white people, you're trivializing the experiences of Black people. When you use the Black power fist as a non-Black person, you're actually doing what has been called the Aryan fist. It's a symbol of white supremacy that was created to and adapted from the Black power fist. So a reminder to all of my white peers, be intentional with the ways that you talk and the way that you use your body. If y'all are here for performative activism, for a photo with your sign that might endanger the life of a Black activist behind you, if you're not ready to talk about if you're ready to talk about Black lives, but you're not ready to combat your own white supremacy and realize that uplifting Black lives mean giving up the power and privilege, then you need to rethink what your intentions are. To all my Black people in the crowd, your rest is resilience, your joy is resilience, your existence is resilience. Thank you.
I want us to all take a moment to give praise, to all the volunteers, all the activists and organizers that have helped put this event off. The medics, folks that have water, mask, and gloves for people, all of our comrades with the Seattle Democratic Socialists of America, of which I'm a member, all the folks from the Bike Brigade who are going to be escorting us as we make our way on this march. So many of our speakers have done a really good job of reiterating and repeating what our three central demands in this moment are and what this movement is about. And I want to take a minute to just talk about those demands. When we talk about freeing all protesters and making sure all protesters are released with no charges, you have to keep in mind that this is a decades-long, actually a centuries-long battle that we have been waging against the Seattle Police Department. Many people don't know that when we're talking about civil liberties, the Seattle Police Department in the middle of World War II was actually responsible for carrying out and executing a lot of the Japanese incarceration, right? This is a history that lives on when we see, cops gassing protesters, cops essentially going to war with the people of Seattle. This is not a fight that's new. It's one that we have to wage in every single generation. So we center that demand. I think that's one demand that's not talked about often enough as far as making sure that everybody who's been out exercising their civil liberties is released and not punished for exercising their constitutional rights. When we talk about our second demand, reinvesting in Seattle's Black community, in community health and social services, at present, the Seattle Police Department's budget for 2020 is going to be about $407 million. That ties up somewhere around 30, 40% of the city's discretionary spending. $407 million, just to give you some perspective, ties up, actually exceeds the combined annual expenses in the city on childcare, on affordable housing, on parks, zoos and aquariums, on libraries. So if you're looking around and you're wondering why our city is in the shape that it's in, with people having to sleep outside, people sleeping in tents, people getting pushed out and priced out of Seattle, a lot of that has to do with the budgetary decisions that our political leadership in the city has made. We have an opportunity, and they have an opportunity, I should say, to meet this moment and to meet this movement with defunding the Seattle Police Department by at least 50%. When you take that money, that's going to go back to the people. It's going to go back to communities that have been struggling for too long. So that's our second demand. The city of Seattle right now has, if I'm not mistaken, 11 elected officials, right? We have 9 city council members, 2 representing at-large positions, 7 city council members representing 7 different districts. We have a city attorney, and I guess we have a mayor, I've been told. So we're at a point right now where, when it comes to meeting that demand for defunding the Seattle Police Department by 50%, we know that we have about 4 votes, right? 4 votes from our current city council. Council members Sawant, council members Mosqueda, council members Gonzalez and Morales have all committed to defunding the Seattle Police Department by 50%. They do deserve that round of applause. So when we're doing the math legislatively, we want to get to 5 votes. We need a majority. And so we have to identify which council members we're going to apply pressure to, which council members we're going to be calling into, which council members we're going to be pressuring to make sure that that demand is met. There's some council members I think will tell you flat out, or maybe through more covert means, that defunding the Seattle Police Department is just not something that they're interested in doing. It's not just that history is going to judge them for their actions, but we're going to judge them the next time they're up for re-election as well. And so I want everybody to come away from this march knowing where your city council district might be, who your representative might be, and applying pressure to that person. It might be Councilmember Strauss, it might be Herbold, it might be Lewis, it might be Juarez. We're in a district where Charlena Lyles was blown away by the Seattle Police Department in 2017. So people have to understand that everything that we're seeing from the police department is them on their best behavior. They've been under federal investigation since 2012. Been in essence under a federal probe since then. And so this is them operating on their best behavior. And so if this is the best that they can do, I think it's a pretty clear and pretty resoundingly clear point that the Seattle Police Department is long past the point of being reformed. They should be abolished. They should be defunded on the way to being abolished. So I hope we all have a great march, a productive march, a radical march, and I hope our message goes loud and clear to the mayor's office that political leadership in the city has been handed a very clear political mandate to defund and abolish the Seattle Police Department. And if they screw it up, we have to know that there are going to be a lot of consequences for that, not just for them in the next elections, but the Seattle Police Department is at this stage a radically unaccountable institution, as it has been since its inception. So we don't want to be in a position where they're going to be able to exact revenge on protesters and continue on with this reign of terror that they've been propagating for the last 150 years in the city. The time to abolish the Seattle Police Department is now.
Please welcome Jay.
How's everybody doing? It's good to see you all again. I was asked to come here by this gentleman and other organizing members, but before we would begin, I would like to once again acknowledge that we are standing on Duwamish land, that this is an indigenous space, and that we were very, very honored to have this woman come and offer blessing to this space. That it is inappropriate of us to navigate in these spaces and be unaware of why we are here. I've been doing a lot of thinking and studying, and as I'm beginning to learn, I feel it's important to continue sharing this information because, as we've all experienced via experiences like CHOP and some of our other demonstrations, we can get lost in our message. So first and foremost, it is inherent that Black Lives Matter. This is not something we need to prove anymore. This is an inherent truth. That's one. Two is that peace is something we keep at home for ourselves. Peace is something inherently within our being as Black people. I'm talking to you. We have not shown a history of being violent. It's been our response to violence that has still remained peaceful, that I no longer require in our movements. More than peace, I ask that we are vigilant when we step into the field. More than peace, I ask that we are aware when we step into the field. More than peace, I ask that we are prepared when we step into the field. Because as we have seen displayed by the Seattle Police Department, they are prepared every time they step out. Is that correct? Is that correct? Is that correct? We've seen them deploy tear gas, flash grenades, and rubber bullets at point blank range. I won't even say that they're detaining, abducting people with their First Amendment rights. This behavior is unacceptable, but is completely understood by the individuals at this party and other demonstrations. Is that correct? So what does it mean for us as we move forward? This is how I had to start studying and where I had to start studying. Malcolm X made a statement during an address that he gave about the way that Black people need to come together and organize. I share that with you now. He stated that it was our right as citizens, if we were simply considered citizens, everything would be okay. If we were considered American citizens, the laws that have already been fought for and established would be enough, but they are not. And why is that? Because Black people are not considered citizens. We are still considered enslaved. They've changed out the name slave for prison. They've changed out words, and the truth has not shifted at all. So I come to you all today with one mission. Outside of the demands that we have made, it is inherent that as we march forward, white-bodied individuals make their way to protect Black people. We have suffered enough, endured enough, experienced enough, and it is now your duty to implement your pride, your privilege, in a way that genuinely uplifts and upholds the Black protest and demonstration reality, which is that this fight has been long-standing and will continue. Malcolm X shared the sentiment of by any means necessary, and I share that with you all now. It is absolutely critical that you understand that. This movement does not stop tomorrow or next week or next year. It stops when our demands are met. So that little 20 million that she offered us was nothing, and we deplore that. I reject that. 50% doesn't even sound good to me anymore. I'm gonna be real. Defunding of the Seattle Police Department, resignation from Jenny Durkan, resignation from Carmen Bess and Chief Scoggins of the Fire Department. But before I go, I share one other idea with you, something that was brought to me in a conversation. There's a concept called the soup. All of us here are in it. And currently, we're fighting other members that are in it. You've seen some of the divisiveness that has gone on amongst other organizers, Black and otherwise. You see the divisiveness that goes on between the Seattle Police Department, Jenny Durkan, and the way that they send in false flag organizers to disperse us. We do not accept this. And we have started targeting and putting our eyes on the lid. So soon, an address will be coming where we discuss the 1%ers that are residing here in Seattle, because they are the people that make the rules for Jenny Durkan. They are the people that are funded, and we do not accept this anymore. If we deplete ourselves in the soup and boil here, nothing happens to them. Nothing happens to the person that's holding the lid. That's what I want. I want to know who's got the lid on us, and I want to remove that so we can be free. There's absolute freedom in our fight. To every black person that has been able-bodied and under the will to demonstrate, I applaud you. To every black person that has resided at home and created, I applaud you. To every black person that has been able to demonstrate in whatever way made sense to this, to be able to survive this is unbelievable. It is the responsibility of white individuals to make their way into these spaces and confront the people that they know. These are their aunts and uncles, their brothers and sisters. This is a white issue, and it is a black catastrophe, and that is not acceptable. I appreciate every single one of you that has come out today, but I will continue to reiterate that this is not a block party, that the Seattle Police Department will be returning. They've given themselves a vacation during this time of CHOP, but they will rise again, and when they do, our job is to be prepared. Every day, it's white bodies to the front, and every day, it's protect a black person in this space. Am I understood? Am I understood? Am I understood? Black Lives Matter.
How y'all doing out there? Woo! I'm gonna pop a squat for this one. DJ, you can play that. I'm gonna need everyone's fist up. Fist up.
And it's clearly the generation after us, man, that's so lost, man. You know, man, I came into Houston and the nigga told me, yeah, Florida, that young nigga the truth, man, right there, because he could bust a gun. Man, I knew it was crazy. Then a nigga my age saying this here, man. You know what I'm saying? And condoning this shit, bro. You know what I'm saying? And like half the young niggas shooting them guns go home and they knees shaking at night. But they don't show it to nobody because, you know, they ain't tough then. Hey, man, come on home, man. One day it's gonna be you and God. You going up and you going down. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah, oh no. Rest in power, George Floyd. I'm witnessing history repeat itself in a different form. Crooked cops trying to kill us all. Just know our souls will live forever. Just know our souls will live forever. They ain't protecting, no serving. Why you got your knee on this thing? I call that hurting. Got your hands in your pockets with a smirk on your face. No void of empathy. Another black man died today while he was taking his last breath. Child thinking he giving service. Unjustified murder, same shit, different day. That's all I ever really see on IG. Like Charlemagne said, this is America's karma. Never understood why they continue to harm us for centuries. I ain't surprised why the system corrupt and never before. So many cases of us dying on the floor. But 12 keep their mouth shut and keep it pushing. No peace, no justice. Who do we call if they cause destruction? Who do we call if they cause destruction? I lost my patience, deal with this anger. I lost my, deal with this anger. I lost my patience, deal with this anger. I lost my. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to. I was actually born in Minneapolis, so just true story. I'm actually born in Minneapolis. Filled with this anger, I lost my patience. Filled with this anger, I lost my. Filled with this anger, I lost my patience. Filled with this anger, I lost my. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to talk about it. If you're brown, you got no choice but to think about it. Thank you.
We made it. So I heard a little rumor that one of these mansions is where Mayor Jenny Durkan lives. Oh, y'all don't like her?
Hell no.
So I've been in Bike Brigade since the very beginning. Shout out to Bike Brigade. Since our march to City Hall, that was amazing. With when we first made our demands, that she still hasn't gone through with. I love my fellow bikers. I trust them. I trust their values, and I enjoy their company. They're my comrades. Y'all are too. Now, I'm sure a lot of you have also made new relationships and new networks. And in our fight for justice for Black and Indigenous people against the violence and aggression from the police state that we live in, there's a new community, a new culture being formed right here.
That's right. That's right.
This is the start of a revolution. For too many decades and centuries, people have divided us with lies and prejudice. Lies told to us by the billionaire, corporate, capitalist class. Lies that make us turn to racism and homophobia instead of understanding. Lies that the power of the worker organizing is weak. Lies that the youth organizing is weak. Those are lies, y'all. Those are lies. That ain't the truth. In the spirit of this national Black uprising, our community holds the values that we all deserve to live in peace, and live a flourishing life. We say Black lives matter because we center the lives that have been most brutalized by the current system. Black lives matter, Indigenous lives matter. And if one life doesn't matter, not all lives matter.
That's right. That's right.
You know, I've heard another speaker say, what do we respond to when someone says, all lives matter? Duh. Duh. That's what you respond to that. So I've heard some talks about making deals with the mayor, negotiating with the police, making the movement give small concessions. No. This community holds the values that we do not take half measures of progress.
That's right.
When we say defund the police, we don't mean 5%. We don't mean $100 million from somewhere in the budget.
That's right.
We mean defund the police. Defund the police. 50% at least. I heard someone over here say 100. Yes. Yes. 50% to start. Mayor Jenny's failure to act on these demands of the people positions her as an obstacle to redistributing wealth away from the brutalizing police force and towards the health, education, and empowerment of Black and brown folks in Seattle. If she cannot do the job of responding to the needs of the people, she must resign.
That's right.
As we continue our struggle against oppression and inequality, continue your community building, right? Continue trusting your abilities as a community to implement change through collective action. As a socialist, I know that a single working class bloc can make revolution happen. And as an Afro-socialist, I know that Black and Indigenous leaders will lead us there. Follow Black leadership. Follow Black leadership. Now, I'm going to elevate the demands of Charlene Lyles' family first. 1, drop the lawsuits that seek to destroy King County's inquest process, Renton, Federal Way, Kent, Auburn, and the King County Sheriff's Office. Drop your lawsuit. 2, Officer Jason Andrews and Stephen McNew, drop your lawsuit against King County, prohibiting the family from getting their answers. We need justice for Charlene Lyles. Period. Number 3, defund the police at least by 50%. At least. Number 4, free all protesters and drop all charges against them. This is democracy. You can't lock up protesters. That's ridiculous. This is democracy. That's it, y'all? Black lives matter. Black trans lives matter. Solidarity forever. Solidarity forever, every day.
Everyone! Thanks for being here. This is what a mass movement looks like. My name is Mangaliman. I'm with Bayern USA, and we are an alliance of progressive Filipinos, workers, women, artists, youth, migrants. We're anti-imperialists. We say we're anti-imperialists because my homeland, the Philippines, where I'm from, where my family was forced to migrate away from, like many other Filipinos, is not a free country, but rather a semi-colonial country under the control of U.S. imperialism. And we recognize that imperialism is capitalism at its most violent and volatile form. And it is also the root of white supremacy and racism. And that is what we're seeing here today, every day in the experience that is the U.S. empire. We condemn the killings of working class black people at the hands of the police, who are not there to serve and protect people, but there to protect the private properties of the wealthy elite. When I heard about Charlene Lyles 3 years ago, it broke my heart. No family should ever have to go through that pain, that grief. Back then, members of the Buying Queer Collective joined in direct action to disrupt the SPD's summer celebration. That they shouldn't be celebrating, right? They shouldn't be celebrating. With other community members to hold a vigil, to mourn and call for justice. How many more lives will we lose? Taken from this violent state. We are still mourning. We are still calling for justice. We need to fight for a future where people's lives mean more than profits.
That's right.
Yes, we should defund the police and use those resources to rebuild our communities. And we need total community control and true justice. Those of us from immigrant families are taught from a young age that we should not, we should not break laws, or that we should be obedient. That's part of that colonial mindset. That's how it is, right? They tell us. But when this system is rotting and repressing our people and taking people away from us, we have to say enough is enough. Right. We have to rise up. The people must boldly rise up. Right. History has shown us it's not going to take politicians like Durkan or reforms to make changes. It's going to take a mass movement of people here. Right? It's gonna take organizing. Our families, our friends, our neighbors to come together to bring around the change that we need to smash imperialism, right? And bring about the world that we need, the socialism, right? Where everyone has what they need, where people are no longer being killed by the system. Buying USA believes in international solidarity, that our movements are intertwined with each other, and it's imperative that we unite together to smash this virus that is imperialism, which is terrorizing people here, black people here, and people all around the world through wars of aggression, through these neoliberal policies. I want to share, in the Philippines, Ksamas were asking questions about the Black Lives Movement, about Black liberation. And even now, I see them holding teach-ins and being inspired by the uprising in the US and showing their support for Black Lives Matter. You have friends on the other side of the world, and you have friends here. On behalf of the National Democratic Movement of the Philippines, we wholeheartedly respect your self-determination of Black people and your struggle for liberation from this routing capitalist system, your right to self-defense and right to rebel. Just as the Filipinos people want to be free, we support your demands and desires for your people to be free and are willing to fight alongside you against the common enemy of U.S. imperialism until victory. Long live international solidarity!
My name is Mika. I am a non-binary immigrant from the Philippines. Just like Jill said, we are here today in international solidarity because we know that the liberation of Black people here in the U.S. is inseparable from the global anti-colonial struggle against imperialism. This country was built on stolen land and by the labor of peoples who were stolen from their homelands. The killings of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, Finan Burry, Ahmaud Arbery, Tony McDade, and Charlena Lyles, and so many others is unfortunately nothing new. It is a continuation of the 400-plus year fascist and colonial war against Black people. Through the exploitation of Black bodies and Black labor, this country has accumulated immense capital. Capital which has been used to build imperialist control throughout the world. Capital that is now being used to destabilize politically, militarily, and economically countries in Latin America, Africa, Middle East, and even my own homeland, the Philippines. The enemy of Black people is the very same enemy of all oppressed and colonized peoples, U.S. imperialism, and we must unite to take it down. To my non-Black folks, I'm looking at you. We must organize our communities, all of them. For a collective, we must join organizations and build intentional relationships. We cannot just show up now or for the next few months. We must show up until complete victory. We must resist Durkins' reformist attempts to dilute the outrage of the people. Instead of meeting our demands, Durkan continues to prioritize interests that only benefit the ruling class. We support the call to defund SPD and seize community control of the police, who have always protected the safety of the elite. To truly honor the life of Charlena Lyles and the countless Black lives lost to police violence and state violence, we must commit to a long-term, organized struggle for the liberation of Black people and all oppressed peoples. Only through unity and international solidarity can we defeat capitalism and U.S. imperialism. Only then can we create a new future, a future where people are put first over profit. I will leave you today with some thoughts by the former chairman of the Illinois Black Panther Party, Fred Hampton. He said, to paraphrase, "We can't put out fire with fire. We must put out the fire with water. We must defeat racism with solidarity. And we must defeat capitalism by organizing for socialism." For a future fitting for people, our families, and our youth. For a future we all want to see, we need to dare to struggle and we need to dare to win. Thank you.
My name Savannah Hackman, and I am an educator and rank and file member of AFT Local 1789. And I was asked to speak here today on our efforts to expel the Seattle Police Officers Guild from the Martin Luther King Labor Council. On June 17th, the council held a vote whether to expel SPOG from the Labor Council, which is a consortium of the unions of King County. They're supposed to represent worker interests as a collective. And we as union workers wanted to make sure they would meet our demands. We put our efforts behind this because we understood that the police have never been in the business of protecting us. When we organize, they are the ones who surveil us, beat us, shoot us, tear gas and pepper spray us. Their purpose is to brutalize. And the only people they protect are the people who exploit our labor and our resources. They are not aligned with us, but against us. And our Labor Council was not going to protect them anymore. Days before that June 17th meeting, a group of union workers came together because we were tired of the Labor Council being on the wrong side of history. We were tired of always having to find a way into their bureaucracy. We understood the gravity of the moment we are living in, and we had enough. So we decided that instead of trying to find a way into the Labor Council, we were going to bring the Labor Council out to us and to this movement. We were going to hold the Labor Council accountable for its role in protecting a murderous police force and hold it accountable to Black, Brown, and Indigenous lives. And on June 17th, we rallied. We brought the council out into the public, and we won. The Martin Luther King County Labor Council voted to expel the Seattle Police Officers Guild. This was a historic victory for the labor movement, and what made it so remarkable was that there was no one leader. This was not a DSA victory. This was not the victory of a single union. This was a rank and file victory of unions across trades and workplaces. This was High Court and HEA calling on union members to sign petitions and email the executive board. This was delegates coordinating with each other and their unions to increase our votes. This was rank and file workers like those of us in AFT pushing our unions to vote to expel. Our demands were not going to be ignored. Our rally was just one small piece of a broad, worker-led struggle. And SPOG's expulsion from the Labor Council is a testament to the fact that when workers are strong, our unions are strong. But more importantly, this is an important step in holding labor accountable to Black Lives Matter. This small victory needs to lead us towards building an anti-racist, anti-capitalist labor movement. Because as we all know, this isn't over. It was not enough to expel SPOG from the council. We need to remember that this wasn't a new fight. Whether SPOG or any police union can legitimately call itself a union has always been a point of contention in labor. In the end, our rally helped, but it wasn't what made expulsion possible. That credit goes to the Black and brown youth who have shown us a world without policing, who through CHOP gave us a literal reimagining of security and safety in the midst of a global pandemic. It was their work, their struggle, the way they put themselves on the line for 10 straight days in Capitol Hill that made this victory possible. They were the difference this time, not us, and we need to continue to fight with them. We need to continue fighting until Durkan meets our demands. Their work is not over, so neither is ours. And that's why I call bullshit on Durkan's pitiful 5% cut to the SPD budget. The movement has shown us that we do not need police to keep us safe. The real people who protected and served us during this pandemic who protected and served us during this pandemic are people like farm workers who produce our food, grocery store workers, and delivery drivers. Okay. All right, it looks like something's going on in the back. Is it firework? Okay. All right, yeah, so I guess we don't need fireworks, y'all, so if you can hold on that for a minute. I appreciate the energy, though. The real people who protected and served us during this pandemic are people like farm workers who produce our food, grocery store workers and delivery drivers, nurses who put their lives on the line every day to keep us safe and maintain our access to basic necessities. Durkin's pathetic 2020 budget does nothing for them. It does nothing for Black and brown communities that are dying at disproportionate rates from COVID-19. Why the fuck are we paying cops salaries of $300K a year to kill us when people are unemployed, or houseless, or starving, or wondering how they're going to access health care? Tens of thousands of Seattle residents have put our own health on the line to make our demands clear, and Durkin's budget is a giant fuck you to us all, and we cannot let that stand. The youth in this city have shown us that we don't need to live like this, that something better is possible, and we need to fight for that possibility. We need to fight for that vision of security and safety that their leadership has brought us, and we cannot stop until Durkan does what is right for our city and for Black and brown lives. Defund SPD by 50%. Reallocate those funds to community-led health and safety systems. Release protesters arrested during this uprising without charges. Free them all! These demands move us towards the city we deserve. We can do this, y'all, and Durkan knows it. We need to push our unions to sign on to decriminalize Seattle's petition. Reach out to your religious communities, your neighbors, spread these demands as widely as you can, and continue to show up for the youth who built this movement. Because when we fight, we win! Thank you.
Let's say, whose lives matter?
Black lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter.
Say, whose lives matter?
Black lives matter.
Whose lives matter?
Black lives matter.
Now we approaching the place. We gonna get it to Jenny's house. We gotta make it hear it. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go.
Hey, ho, ho. Jenny Durkan has got to go.
Hey, hey!
Ho, ho. Jenny Durkan has got to go.
You know, since I've been coming out here, what I feel like, and this is just my own feelings, is that Indigenous people were constantly fighting for visibility. Visibility on our own homelands. We're constantly fighting for sovereignty, which we have never gotten. That's a lie. That's a lie. I mean, even standing here on Coast Salish territory, this government doesn't even want to acknowledge the Duwamish people. The Duwamish people. I mean, if you think about the system that we're up under, a system that was set up to erase us, a system that was set up to remove us completely. I mean, some of the stuff is so disturbing that, you know, most people don't even know our history. You know, we talk about it. We talk about the forced removal. We talk about the relocation. We talk about our great-grandfathers. I'm a descendant of Chief Joseph, you know. I don't stand here alone. I mean, this is really, really emotional for me.
You are not alone. Look around.
We came here, you know, and indigenous people, like, as we stand here, a lot of what happened 400 years ago, 300 years ago, 200 years ago was a matter of survival. Our great-grandfathers had to make choices so that we could be here, so that we can, they were thinking of the next 7 generations ahead of them. They were not just thinking about themselves. And I really love when I hear people talk to the young people, because I'm only going to be here for a short amount of time. But hopefully whatever I do today, and the life that I get to live today because of my sobriety, because of the life I live today, will impact the next 7 generations. We can only hope and pray that we empower them, that we encourage them. I've had so many young people want to know what to do and how to be in this space as an indigenous youth. Where do they belong in Black Lives Matter? That's the question that I hear. And I want to say that, you know, I tell a lot of young people to come here. Bring something that says Black Lives Matter. Come and wear your best. This regalia, this ribbon skirt that I'm wearing today, this drum that I carry, every jewelry, whatever I come in, sometimes I come in full regalia. This is not me coming in costume. I'm not wearing an outfit. I'm wearing my ceremony. I'm wearing my prayer. I'm coming into this space with every good thing that I have for my people. Every good thing that I have. Today, 3 families were supposed to be here. Eagle's son Williams was going to come here and speak about his uncle, John T. Williams, who's coming up on a 10-year anniversary. I got to tell you that this is not easy. I'm also a family member of missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. 3 of the women in my family were murdered. One of those was murdered right in front of me. And the justice system didn't step up. She was my auntie. In 2018, my cousin went missing for almost 300 days, and she was found thrown away in a freezer. My niece was murdered in Burien, Washington, almost 2 years ago. We're fighting for justice and equality on so many levels, but in the work that I do, missing and murdered Indigenous people, the families that have lost, that the family members were stolen from them, ripped from their lives by police brutality, lethal police force, are the families that I'm here to make visible too. I do everything I can so that they feel like they can come into this space and they can be heard and be seen. Because oftentimes, we don't even make the newspaper. Oftentimes, we never make CNN. We never hear from mainstream media. So today, I just want to share about John T. Williams. I want to say that in my talks with Eagle's son, it hurts him every day. This is something that never leaves. It never leaves, that when we're all done marching, when everybody here is done marching, just like in MMIW, the families will be left with this pain. They will forever carry it in their hearts. They will forever wake up and that person is gone. They will forever carry this trauma. And so one of the demands that Eagle's son said that he would like to see happen is that these police officers that are fired Much like the officer that murdered John T. Williams, he was then fired in Seattle and rehired in Edmonton. He was rehired. So he didn't lose his job, he just got moved. You know, he wants to see that stop. That's one of the things that he's asked, that if he could add a demand, that would be the demand, that these officers don't get rehired. Cecil Lacey Jr. was murdered by 2 tribal police officers and 1 sheriff. All the time that they put their knees on his chest, that he died from asphyxiation because he couldn't breathe. He kept saying, "I can't breathe, I can't breathe." And he asked them, "Please call my wife, please call my wife." And he was just taking a walk. He went out to take a walk. I can't tell the story like the family members, but I'm here because they asked me. Don't forget, go ahead and talk about it. It needs to be talked about. And so they're still seeking justice. There's still an open case. These are families that you can support. Stonechild Chiefstick was murdered. In fact, on July 3rd, it'll be 1 year. I mean, not 1 year, I'm sorry. That was in 2015. No, that was last year. Last year, sorry.
It's okay.
I'm not. So it was 1 year ago, July 3rd, coming up, that Stonechild Chiefstick was murdered by Poulsbo police. And they have an open case, and they've been doing a lot of work in Poulsbo. And I want to say that they have a GoFundMe. They have an action coming up on July 3rd in Poulsbo, Washington. They need support. We need our white allies to show up. We need our black relatives to show up. We need our brown relatives to show up. We make up like such a small percentage of this world. I think it's like we make up 2% of the entire world and 4% of Washington. And so we have the smallest demographic often. Our black relatives were stolen from their ancestral lands. They were stolen from their culture, from their language, from where they came from. But I want to acknowledge that this is your land too. This is your home too. And if anybody should have to leave here, it should be the colonizers. It should be the colonizers. Because the system that they built this country on was out of genocide and out of racism.
Yes.
So the names of our indigenous relatives that have been murdered by police in this territory, and I'm going to say their names, and hopefully when I say their names that nobody forgets these families. Many of them are doing work, many of them have open cases, they need support. I'm hoping that we can come together and get a coalition and have the indigenous families add on to these lists of demands. So, John T. Williams, say his name.
John T. Williams.
Stonechild Chiefstick, say his name.
Stonechild Chiefstick.
Renee Davis, say her name.
Renee Davis.
Jackie Salyers, say her name.
Jackie Salyers.
Janetta Riley, say her name.
Janetta Riley.
Milo Harvey, say his name.
Milo Harvey.
Cecile Lacey Jr., say his name.
Cecile Lacey Jr.
Michael Mitchell, say his name.
Michael Mitchell.
Joshua Spotted Horse, say his name.
Joshua Spotted Horse.
And I don't have the name of the Davis baby, but three of the women that I named off here all 3 of them were pregnant. Renee Davis, Jackie Salyers, and Janetta Riley. I want to say that these babies didn't even get to be born. That the police officers that took their lives also took the lives of their unborn babies. I also want to say Black Lives Matter very much. And that when I say Black Lives Matter, it doesn't mean that my life does not matter. It means that Black Lives Matter. also want to say Charlena Lyles. Say her name.
Charlena Lyles.
Say her name.
Charlena Lyles.
Say her name.
Charlena Lyles.
Thank you. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to come up here and say those few words for the families. And I also want to thank the Lyles family for the work that they're doing. I want to thank Democratic Socialists of America for having us here, and also for the work that they're doing, and for all of you that have been here. One of my aunties said that be sure and thank the people from my heart that you all came out here. Atal Cloud Kush 9.
Our movement demands action, not words, and we demand action now, not the promise of action many months from now when the movement has ebbed away. We demand action now because the delaying tactic that is often used by big business-type political establishment is far too common under capitalism. They tell the movement, we will get what we want later. Let's have more studies, stakeholder groups, presentations by experts. Let's do it right. Let's not be hasty like those impetuous socialists. This is how the establishment attempts to tire a movement out. Are we going to accept that?
No!
Socialist Alternative, my organization, and my Socialist Council office stand fully with the demands of the Charlena Lyles family, Decriminalize Seattle, and the King County Equity Now Coalition, and the demands of our movement as a whole. We demand that the cities of Renton, Federal Way, Kent, and Auburn, and by the way, when we say the cities, it doesn't mean the ordinary people of the cities, it means the political establishment of the cities. The King County Sheriff and the police officers who killed Charlena, that they all drop their various lawsuits that are a legal obstacle to carrying out the King County inquest. We demand that the Seattle City Council defund the Seattle Police Department by at least 50% and reinvest in the community. And needless to say, my office has already publicly pledged to fight for defunding the police by at least 50%. We need to build a united movement to win this. So I invite anyone and everyone who fights alongside us, let's build a movement in solidarity, because we know we're going to need a fighting movement, not negotiations by a few establishment chosen leaders in back rooms. And a lot of details need to go into this legislation. But I have to say, one among them is, in the defund legislation, has to be that we purge this department of the cops who already have a record of brutality and violence. And of those who gave them the orders. It is time, my friends, to clean house. We demand that all protesters arrested during the uprising be released without charges. And last but not least, Mayor Jenny Durkan must go. Durkan, who's a Democratic establishment politician, has overseen the killing of at least 8 black and brown people at the hands of Seattle police. Not a single police officer has been brought to justice. Under her oversight, Seattle police have inflicted further violence on our peaceful protest movement, including barbaric weapons like tear gas, flashbang grenades, and rubber bullets. If Durkan refuses to resign, then I, as an elected representative of Seattle's working people, have pledged to bring articles of impeachment. But as we know, this can't be done by any one person, even though they may be an elected representative. We're going to need a movement. Are we going to have a movement behind this? And we know that getting organized into movements and fighting in solidarity, in multiracial working class solidarity, is actually the only thing that works in winning change against this rotten system. We forced, after all the tear gassing, we forced a unanimous vote on the city council in 1 week's time. We forced a unanimous vote on the city council to make Seattle the nation's first city to have passed a historic ban on the use and purchase by Seattle police of any of the chemical weapons and the so-called crowd control weapons. This won't be enough, but it was a historic step forward, and it is providing inspiration to the movement throughout the nation. As others have mentioned, Labor rank and file of all races united and expelled the police officers' guild from our local labor council. And we said, and I'm a member of the teachers union, we said together, there's no room for racism in our labor council. We need to immediately, we have no time to lose, we have to immediately escalate this movement to win defunding by at least 50% without delay. And we also need to take steps forward to fight for and win an independent, elected community oversight board with full powers over the police, including hiring, firing, and subpoena powers. I really want to echo the speakers before me who have said that the clever negotiations in the back room, that is not how we have won the victories that we have won, starting with the $15 minimum wage and the chemical weapon ban. We won that overcoming the establishment's opposition. They were trying to gut that legislation, but we won because the movement spoke with one voice. The movement's other demand is pay the fee. Where's the fee going to come from? Yes, but in addition to that, it's going to come from the wealthiest in Seattle, from the wealthiest corporations. Well, our movement has been fighting to tax big businesses so that we can have funds for affordable housing, to begin to end the racist gentrification in our city, and to begin to put dollars on the table for the Green New Deal. On Wednesday, it's coming right down to the wire. On Wednesday, the city council is going to be meeting in the morning, and they have already promised to vote yes on our movement's Amazon tax. But we have to hold them accountable. So join me at 9 a.m. Wednesday morning for an online community meeting. Just search my name, Councilmember Kshama Sawant on Facebook, and you'll find it. It's very easy to find, but we need you all to be there, because all they need is for the movement to relent one bit, and then they will sell us out. We cannot let that happen. But in addition to all of this, in addition to winning these demands, which are going to be hard, and we will need to build a mass movement to win every single one of these, we also have to understand that there's a reason why Mayor Jenny Durkan and the Democratic establishment mayors throughout the nation are defending the police and have defended police brutality for decades. Why? Because these mayors, this political establishment, serves the capitalist class, and capitalism is a police state. And to win a police-free, oppression-free society, capitalism itself has to be dismantled. But for that to happen, we are going to need an international socialist revolution led by the working class. Where we all stand together with equal stake in winning a society free of racism, free of sexual violence, free of bigotry and religious phobia. We all have a stake in this. We all have to fight it. We all have to be on the front line, because if somebody's lives don't matter, then nobody's lives matter. And injustice to one is an injustice to all of us. So let's make sure Jenny's wonderful neighbors hear our voices even louder. Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go! Hey, hey, ho, ho! Jenny Durkan has got to go!
Check, check, check. Did you not get the memo? This ain't Coachella, it's the beginning. This is a movement, this ain't a moment. Y'all gotta wake up, enough with the snoozing. Hey, it's not the time to be lazy, so be aware of what's going on. George Floyd was not a wake-up call. Y'all been hitting snooze all along. It's a common phenomenon. Call us monkeys like Hanuman. Free up protesters like, how the fuck can you protest wrong? Stop it. I'm about that action, let's talk it. My people targeted often. They used to sell us at auctions. Gotta make prison my coffin. Most of my people be dying and missing. We gotta protect our women. In this community, we gotta stick to this unity. Middle fingers up to Durkan. Really, she ain't really good at serving. Really, all my life I had to put the work in. I know that shit is for certain. Really, whose streets are streets? Educate yourself, please. All of this land is indigenous. We need to put. All of this land is indigenous. We need to defund the police, capiche? All of this land is indigenous. We need to defund the police, capiche? Did you not get the memo? This ain't Coachella, it's the beginning. Did you not get the memo? This ain't Coachella, it's the beginning. Say it, did you not get the memo? This ain't Coachella, it's the beginning. Did you not get the memo? This ain't Coachella, it's the beginning. Thank you. I really appreciate you guys. Y'all can follow me at Nestra Music. But hey, it's not about me. It's about the people. Much love.